So what embarrasses me is that why after this whole is we had the reformist government that they wanted to change things and they couldn't. They had the best chance to come up with better relations with the Western countries and bring some incentives inside and to get more power, but they were abandoned because at a certain point, I think, especially the European countries, thought that this government's incapable of making decisions, so hardliners are coming in and we make a good deal with them. And you see that they left and these people came in and you cannot make a deal with them. And now you're forced to do so because you have lots of things in your countries. I mean, the election is coming up and parties are losing power, so and you have to come up for something that is a bit messy like Iraq issues or so, and you're downsizing everything that you stand for 28, 29 years or so. These are the things that I would like to see why this is not covered in the Western media. From my side, I would like to see why no one objects to that. I mean, sure, certain people say, okay, let's Iran and United States engage into the talk with each other, but why now? Why now? Really, I mean, this is the case that I want to ask about, and this is quiet silence everywhere inside Iran, outside. No one talks about that. At the same time, we have the crackdown of civil movements inside because of the cover, because of the hijab, and the beating up the people in the streets. Something that the last time I've seen it was more than 15 years ago. I mean,
this degree of violence.
Yes, yes, 15 years ago. I was a couple of times a victim of this kind of attacks. When I was studying in university, I had no right to wear jeans or talk to my female classmates or so. If I do that, I would have been expelled from university. But after 15 years, lots of things change. We have young generations coming up or so. And again, with this level of violence and suppress is something that I don't get. And no one puts the focus on that and to get deep on what is going. And at the same time, there are lots of sanctions in the Iranian government, for example. I want to know, I want to investigate it and see how they are making their deals. Certainly something is not working because they get anything they want from black market, from Dubai, Pakistan, everything.
Jordan,
so, there has to be some leads.
Yeah.
Where they are harboring this whole money, where these people are coming up.
Right.
I was working for the UNHCR in...
Well, tell us what you were doing for the United Nations.
I was in the UNHCR agency, the UN Refugee Agency.
The UN Refugee
Agency, UNHCR, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. So there was two things. It was 1998 and it was 2001. It was about this. Afghan refugees, for the first time, they got an agreement with the government to go through the 1951 convention and try to screen this whole Afghan, Iraqi people who are inside the Iran and put them in a screening to say who's eligible refugee, who's not, for whom the Iranian government could get some assistance from the international community, and some he's allowed to reject and set them outside. So in that time, I saw that when we were crossing the borders in the eastern side of the country, there were some official lines that it's a custom, it's an official border line that you have to present passport or something and that you want to go. But there were other crossing as well, which was not under supervision of the government. It was with IRGC, this Iran Islamic Revolutionary Guards, and they have their own checkpoints, they have their own borders, they have their own export and import and everything, and no one controls that. I mean, this story is there. I mean, in some point, I understand that BBC or Reuters or Associated Press doesn't want to touch too sensitive cases because they want their bureau open inside Iran.
They
don't want
continued
to.
access.
Yes, they want to be there.
Right.
I can find. It's fine with me, but at the same time, you have stories that somebody has to answer to that.
Right.
I mean, you cannot withdraw from that case. I'll give an example. Remember the last time that Iran and European Union had round table talking about human rights issues, and there was delegations coming. It was interesting. In that time, one of the top guys on the official in the judiciary told me that we are the most happiest part of this whole EU-Iran negotiation on human rights. And I asked him why. supposedly you have to be really against it because it's about how you are performing inside with this whole codes. And he told me no, because they are the only pressure that we could get to correct things inside the country. We don't have any pressure on us. We're allowed to do anything we want. There has to
Only
be
an international monitoring agency can do
there has
that.
to be some pressure on us, so we'll correct these things. And we find out. And I remember in that time about this very sensitive cases like stoning. I've met some of the top clerics in Qom. They call it the Iran Vatican.
Yes.
All
Yes,
the
Qom.
religious people are there. They told me that this is the role of a government. They have to come to us and it says, at this current time, stoning is something that we cannot really
Condone.
carry out,
Yes.
and we cannot do this anymore. Come up with something. Although I have to say the sentence of stoning has never been carried out in major cities, capital cities, never ever. This is something that in the regions in north or in
Rural.
south or west south of the country,
Right.
because they have a tribal
Right.
kind of life.
Smaller communities.
Yes, and nomads are living, so they are just kind of like this kind of.
Have these been
executions.
increasing? Cases such as this been increasing? Of
In
stonings
that
and-
in that area, it's more or less have some typical rating that it just goes on. It
Right.
doesn't go that much high, it doesn't go that much low. It just continues in a certain way. It is something that they cannot really control the community without it, so they consider it this way.
Did the UNHCR embrace this challenge of trying to actually engage on human rights, or did they step back because of reasons of political
Never.
sensitivity?
Never, because whenever, I mean, this is what they coming up.
Never
every
what?
time.
Never.
They said that whenever we put pressure, something that is really sensitive, they say, okay, we'll trying to downsize your operations inside the country, and they didn't want to interfere that issues with this issue. But which my agreement at that time was that it has no conflict. You have some certain job, and there's some certain job else, and you have to find good managers or someone
Right.
to define how to maintain this while you're doing this. You don't have to be afraid of cutting down one and just stick with it. It's not prioritizing this whole mission. But they did it, and they're not that much active because they think that being there is the most important thing.
So being there allows them some degree of pressure that is still relevant, they feel?
Well, not pressure. At least they can still watch and
Comment.
observe. Watch
Yeah.
and observe. No.
So they hope that people would be less inclined to do stonings if they think the UNHCR is going to turn up and...
Well, yes. I mean, for someone who's living in like city like capital Tehran, stoning is nothing because
Right.
you
Doesn't
never
happen.
saw it. You
Yeah.
never saw it before.
Yeah.
I saw it myself in my own eyes, but outside Tehran. But the thing is, the whole case of human rights issue is misconducted and misleaded inside the country like Iran, because we don't have any course of human rights in our universities.
You have no... But you also... Is there a right inscribed in any constitution to human rights?
Well, there's a
that you can refer
constitution.
to?
Iran is member of one of the conventions
Right.
to the civil rights movements. But the thing is, although it's in there, it's in the constitution, but it's not provided by the executive side of the country. They're not implementing anything, and they're not taking care of it. The thing is, the human rights, you need experts, you need lawyers, you need cases, you need activists. I mean, this whole circle is, it needs some education, and there's no education. Of course, I respect the people we have right now that they are working very hard, but they just came accidentally from some way in this whole case
Right,
and
they're not
tried
trained to
yes, they're trying to
understand
figure
this.
things out. I would rather find a way how we can educate people, what are their rights.